Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Mandy. I started this YouTube for planning, lifestyle, and mom life kind of stuff. And today I'm going to talk about why budgeting, why is it so important to us, and basically how it's changed our lives. I have my notes here. If you see me look down, I'm just trying to keep myself from rambling for you and to just basically tell you the story of how we got here. And by no means are we do we know everything about it or anything, but it is definitely something that has changed our lives for the better. And if you put a little bit of just, some work into it and kind of daily check-ins or weekly check-ins, you could probably do the same for yourself. And I don't ever feel good about not sharing something that has helped me. So that's what I'm going to do today, is just kind of share with you how it's changed our lives for the better and what it's really just done for us. In so many different ways. Like, we feel like we can be less stressed. We have, I don't feel like we'd ever really fight about money. And I think budgeting has definitely helped with that. So the first thing that I want to do is kind of tell you like a little backstory. So I don't feel like anybody who is a young adult will know anything about budgeting unless their parents really drove it into them and made sure that they knew. But they definitely wouldn't be able to know that much about budgeting unless you are experiencing reasons for it. So experiencing that you need to budget, having some money coming in, and then figuring out what to do with it and what's important and prioritizing and stuff like that. So of course, I've made some mistakes with my money in the past, but I definitely had to start budgeting pretty early on. I started working at 16 and I needed to make sure that my money was going to the right places. But not until I was probably, I think, around 24, I ended up taking a workshop thing at my church with my mom for Dave Ramsey. And that taught me a lot. It was definitely a good thing to do, because after that I didn't get into any credit cards. I was actually no credit cards here, because I didn't know how to track where my money was going. I thought I did, but I used a check register and that's pretty much it. So basically, it set the groundwork for me, though. It definitely helped me be more aware of my spending. I realized credit cards were not good for me at that time. Not that I had a problem or anything, I just didn't know how to spend it, track it, and then pay it all off. I was probably in a situation where I wasn't making enough to pay what I was spending off. So credit cards were not good for me, and I'm glad that I took that workshop and learned even just that from it, let alone so many more things that there were to learn, and just relationship building that was kind of cool with that too. So I definitely recommend that if there's something like that in your area. I would recommend doing some kind of workshop for finances or the Dave Ramsey stuff with your loved ones, if you can too. So basically, when my husband and I met, I had already taken that, and we never really shared our money for a really long time, actually. We don't even completely share it now. We still have separate accounts. But we basically put our money together after we get our paychecks. So basically, we just wanted more control over our finances as things would come up, and throughout the year we would forget about things. We realized we could save more if we had a plan as well. And we are currently in the situation where we have emergency funds, a savings for things that we may need to update. So it's not necessarily an emergency fund, but savings for things that we may need to update in case something goes wrong around the house or a big medical bill or something comes up. And then we have worked this past year to have, I guess some would call them sinking funds, where we know they're going to come up, but we may have saved extra, and then that we either have a choice to keep saving in that category, or we can, at the end of our goal, if we have extra money for that, we can put it towards one of our savings accounts. And we're really proud about that. And that's what this last year has really gotten us. I feel like you have to be patient with budgeting, but you can see things right away. And those things, just like any other goal, if you start seeing things right away or feeling the benefits of it more regularly, then you keep going. And that is what we decided last year when we decided to set up sinking funds, or I like to call them categories, because some people call sinking funds something that they know is going to come out, but I don't know, it's kind of different for everybody. But for me, a sinking fund is where I'm putting money into something that I know I'm going to spend the money on, but I always like to over budget. So for example, I have a sinking fund, or what I like to call category, for haircuts. And I knew that we were going to probably spend at least $60 a month on the boys in my family's haircuts, about 20 bucks each. It ended up being a little bit more sometimes, but one of my youngest didn't really need a haircut once a month. So then when the pandemic started and we couldn't, or the pandemic happened and we couldn't go get haircuts, we ended up actually saving quite a bit of money. And this is just a little side story on that. I learned how to cut hair, or I should say boys' hair, and we have saved quite a bit of money. But if I didn't have that, I knew that that money was going to be coming out and every month. And then if we didn't happen to spend it, or we just found a haircut that was cheaper and we didn't spend the whole amount for the month, I would either roll that over into the next month, or I had the option to put it into our savings. And that's what I typically use our categories for. So last January of 2020, after Christmas, my husband and I sat down and we went through like all of our spending that we had done pretty much that year. And we figured out categories. And yes, I have a lot of categories. I just feel more comfortable with that. If you want, you can call them subcategories for more broad of a category. For example, kids, you can have a category for kids, but I actually have subcategories for kids then, because we have back to school and sports as one of our categories. We have kids' dates as one of our categories. Their haircuts were one of the categories. So I have a list of categories, but if you're interested in categories, which maybe I will probably do a video soon about categories to kind of show you how I do those. If you don't want a list of 20 categories, you could make a list of 5 categories, and kids would be one of those categories. I like to keep track of those things just because I feel like if I know how much is going to a haircut and maybe it's not even necessary, then I can save that money. I just can keep a better eye on our spending. So last January, we put together those categories. We saw about how much we spent on them, or we would look into how much we were spending on them, like our haircuts. And we would basically, on paper, put that money to the category. So we would anticipate 60 bucks for each month. Then what we did was we added up how much we thought we were spending a month on each category a month. Or if we weren't spending it each month, so for example, maybe our car tags come once a year for each of our cars. So we needed to take that amount and then spread it out throughout the year, and we needed to see how much money a month that would be. So if your car tags are, $100, that's probably too low, huh? But let's say you spend $500 $100 on car tags for the year, you would divide that by 12 and figure out how much money you need to put towards your car category a month. Now, the reason that I do use car category very broadly because we had to get tires and stuff like that. So what we ended up doing was figuring that there would be more money put towards our cars than just our tags, and we upped the amount, the monthly amount. So it's just very, very flexible, and that's what I love about the budget that we've figured out. We've researched different ways of budgeting, figured out what works for us, and this is what's working for us. And again, I want to share some of that in case you're in that boat where you feel like you have to follow one system, or if you can't follow a system, you're doomed and you can't just do anything and you're just going to spend your money without really knowing what you could have been doing with it. So you definitely don't have to follow an exact system, or maybe you don't have to follow an exact system to get started either. You might want to eventually, but it could be very overwhelming. So that is basically what we did, is we figured out what we spent our money on. We made categories that we were comfortable for. The categories were very flexible. We were able to change them throughout the year because this year has been a year of many changes and we have had to adjust them, and we have still stayed pretty strong with it. There's not a month that went by that we did not, budget or get in there. I mean, maybe I was a couple days late with the budget, or our income changed quite a bit this year and has gone up and down in areas. So we've had to make adjustments to our budget. But all in all, the budget has been so helpful, and we are just more intentional with our money. We're more intentional with our time now that we have been budgeting. We see areas that we could have saved and wish that we would have saved in the past. So now that we have seen that we are able to save our money and be more intentional with our time and our money, we have been able to see what our family needs and what we need to put our money towards, or would like to put our money towards. So short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals for our money. And we are hoping that we can buy our car with cash next time we buy a car, which isn't anytime really soon, but it's definitely a short-term goal for us that may be done within the next year or two. And we are very excited about that. We are very excited that we are in that position because we started budgeting. So it also has allowed me to work less and be home with my kids, which was something that I found that I really wanted to do after my second was born. And now that I have a third child, I'm very thankful that we made that decision. So I'm not sitting here trying to talk anybody into doing what we did, but if you are in that same boat or a similar boat and you are wondering how in the world would you be able to make that goal happen because of finances, you may actually be able to make that happen. Or if you start budgeting and seeing where you're spending your money and creating intentional ways of spending your money, then you may actually be able to do some things that you never thought you could do. So basically, that is our story for budgeting. And if you guys would like to continue to learn more about how I budget, or if you're just interested in kind of figuring out your way of budgeting and what's good for you and your family, go ahead and subscribe. I will be doing a lot more budgeting videos. And I'm really excited to bring that to you guys this year, knowing that I have taken the last basically 2 years of testing it out on my budget and with my family, and with all the changes that we've had, we're still going strong. So go and subscribe, and I hope that I see you guys for the next one. Bye, guys.